It is Saturday. We're doing a special edition of Track Chat with the most known unknowns. We had some really good feedback and comments from our most recent video, the HBCUs versus PWIs. So joining us on this Saturday, early afternoon, early morning, we have Coach Richie Dean from Alabama State and Jabri Harris from the University of Illinois. Of course, I myself, I'm Coach Kyle Stevenson, Georgia State University. We got Hassan Stamps, East Tennessee State, and Lamont Johnson from Johnson C. Smith. Fellas, we're gonna jump right in. Jabri, I'm gonna start with you though, because you have a unique experience and story, both from the athlete side and coaching side. You attended an HBCU and attended a PWI. You also attended. Sorry about that. Other phone. My bad. That's my phone. And then you've also coached at an HBCU and coached at several PWIs. So just take us through, your experiences both on the athlete side and the coaching side at both different institutions, both style of institutions.
Well, thank you for having me, Kyle. I appreciate that. Well, starting out, before I got to Alabama State, just to give a little precursor, I grew up and went to Upward Bound program at Morehouse College. So that was a good precursor going into Bama State. And where I'm from east side of Atlanta, Decatur, Georgia, and did fairly decent in high school. But my first university I attended was Alabama State. The head coach there at that point in time was Horace Crump. And my last year there, Coach Bean came along. I believe that was fall of 98 or fall of 99?
No, I think right about 98.
Okay, fall of 98.
97.
And I'll say for me, one, it was tough for me to leave Alabama State. And the reason why, the way I grew up, as far as went to majority black high school and in Decatur, Georgia, and even my high school and junior high in Lithonia was majority black. But having that education in Morehouse College, and just due to my background, I do know going to Alabama State was the best thing for me as a person. Athletic-wise, I think talent is talent, no matter what level you go to, D1, D2, D3, HBCU, PWI. Either you can hold a star down from shining for so long. So it doesn't matter, I don't think, if you go to a D1 or a D1, D2, or D3, mid-major HBCU. But the great thing about Alabama State was the warmth, the feeling of family, the feeling of home, the education. I do remember this one guy, I forget the professor's name. He taught African American humanities, and the way he spoke, it wasn't anything against any other race, but there's a lot of self-pride, a lot of pride as a black man, as black people, and that's one class that really stood out to me. It's just that feeling of empowerment, that feeling of knowing who we are, knowing who I am. And as far as the team, it was a combined program. The great thing about Coach Crump, he was like a father figure. He welcomed everybody. He was easy to talk to. He took care of you, and he saw me from how I was coming in as somebody. I needed some help. I had some internal issues, just from how I grew up. And Coach Crump and the team welcomed me automatically. A guy named Eric Mooney, Michael Snap, Eugene Frazier. Michael Snap, who's assistant coach at Alabama State. Eugene Frazier, he coaches up at Alabama A&M right now. Those were just some of my big brothers who took care of me. They saw this kid who needed some help socially and internally, and they just took me in. And a lot of other people around campus did as well. And not just my teammates, but the guys I stayed with in my dorm. And we just all related, and it just felt warm. I got the support I needed as a young man. Training-wise, I don't think anywhere I would have went, I would have been track savvy. I mean, I ran summer track growing up with Coach Bennett out of Atlanta, Decatur, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point in my time, I wasn't, even if Coach Crump or Coach Bean threw out the world's greatest workout, I probably would have known what was going on. That was just my education with track and field. I just ran. I just didn't like losing. That was the good thing about that. But the overall, just a warmth. Socially, I had a great church. There's a church called Deeper Life, and it reminded me of the church I grew up in Georgia, and like just everything about Alabama State and that university was warm and felt like home. And it was tough for me to leave because I was leaving my brothers and leaving my sisters. And to be honest, people ask, why did you leave? Some of my brothers and sisters said, Jabril, it's time for you to go. And that kind of baffled me because I was staying because of them. They showed a man who was highly introverted, which I could still be. They showed me how to open up a little bit more. But when I got to that point of that maturity level, like, Jabril, time for you to go. And that was tough. And it took me a while. And you can talk to Hassan. He was my teammate at Tennessee. It was tough for me to adapt to Tennessee because I was so attached to the brotherhood and sisterhood and the family atmosphere of Alabama State. So that's just like a little brief part of it for right now. Start with it.
Okay. So so just briefly, so tell us about your time at Tennessee. Give us some of those differences, or even just that first year in that transition.
The first couple of things I noticed, the brothers and the black people at Tennessee were different from the black people at Bama State. You walk down the sidewalk at Bama State, you get your acknowledgement, your head nods and what's up, man, kind of deal. I remember a couple of times walking down the sidewalk in Knoxville, I just didn't get that same acknowledgement that I typically get from a brother or sister. I'm not a frat and I'm not a Mason, but to me, the fraternities and sororities are a bit different. And HBCU just seemed, and no disrespect to anybody from another university, but from my experience from Alabama State at that time to Tennessee at that time, fall '99 at Tennessee, the fraternity sororities just a little bit, I would say richer at an HBCU. I'm not a Mason or a frat, but it seemed like they welcomed you more at an HBCU than they did at that point in time at Tennessee. And that transition, and to be honest, the people who welcomed me more in on the team were some of the white guys. A guy named Clint Binder is a pole vaulter, and the throwers. Those mainly the guys who just took me around and just welcomed me in. And I'm a highly open-minded person no matter what. But that transition to where the white part of the team welcomed me faster than everybody else. With time, I put my walls down because it's mostly me with my walls, not really letting go of Alabama State as much as I probably should have. But it's kind of hard to let go of your heart, of sorts. So part of it was me, and Tennessee was where I needed to be in my growth. And it was tough to see a couple times. See a Confederate flag, and I grew up seeing a Confederate flag in Georgia around Stone Mountain. So to me, that meant KKK. And I didn't really see that much in the environment at Bama State. So I was going back to that world of seeing, hearing Redneck, see the KKK march downtown in Knoxville. So those transitions were back to that world of things. And in my opinion, you should never run from that. You go towards it and you challenge that type of system. So it was time for me to be at Tennessee. And eventually, once I opened myself up to the team, people like Hassan, they welcomed me. So it's more or less I went in with a wall, and they consider me black militant. I remember them saying that, but I wasn't.
I think that was coined by Watts, but we were just like, just so you can know,
yeah.
It's cool to hear your explanation of the wall you had up, because it was like genuinely, hey, Jabril, what's up? You want to do this? And trying to find out who you were because of your walls. We're like, man, Jabril ain't trying to kick it, man. All right. And then, as you got, obviously, as you said, as you got more comfortable, what I learned, give y'all a funny story. I would never call myself a bully, but one particular bus ride when we were just kind of messing around, and I balled up some pieces of paper and I started throwing them at back at Jabri's head. Boop, boop. And then, man, maybe about a third time, Jabri got up and said, I don't know who's throwing the paper. The next person throws the paper, it's going to be a problem. And there's going to be some furniture, chairs moving. Everybody was like this.
Well, that situation, one, I was bullied growing up. Two, like I said, I was taught a certain thing at Bama State. I don't like people mess with me, and all of a sudden we on a bus, a charter bus, and somebody throwing something back in my head. I stood up and asked somebody, whoever, to stop doing it. The second, third time, I didn't really curse that part of my life. I was a good, strong Christian man at that point. And I just cursed everybody out on the bus and challenged everybody to fight while the bus was moving. I just how it was.
There we go. There's some things I'm gonna press on pause because we're gonna address it later, Jabri, because your experience at Tennessee from the Black population was actually different from mine. So I do want to dig into that a little bit deeper. But Coach Ben, I want to jump right in. So, and this is just from my knowledge, but right now, just in the grand scheme of things, you've had a great tenure at Alabama State. Coach Williams, that we spoke about in a previous episode, he's had a great stint at St. Aug. Why have you stayed at Alabama State so long?
I kind of refer back to the podcast I did earlier. Is a lot of it is my faith, my family, and my close connection with friends. I've had opportunities to advance or opportunity for other jobs, but it wasn't right at the time. Also, I worked my way up. As Jabri spoke, I got there in '97, and Jabri was there, and I had opportunity to work with him some, and then it kind of just started growing from there. And actually, Jabri doesn't know this. I might have told him before. He was part of that driving force for me to get better at my craft. And I believe in giving back what was given to me. I started out at a PWI, and then I transferred to Alcorn State University, and my college coach and people just invested in me, and I enjoy that. I enjoy taking people probably when most people wasn't ready to give them the chance or they was overlooked, and to not only just recruit an athlete, but recruit somebody who's going to go out, going to be a productive citizen, create financial stability for themselves and for the family. And Alabama State has been good to me. It's been good to me. And the time that I did consider making moves, they answered the call back. Hey, we have some value in you here. We value you here. We want to keep you here. And that's why, like I said, it's got to be something that really makes sense for me to depart and go where my family is going to be good, because I'm big on family. I'm big on support and all of that. And I enjoy giving young people the HBCU experience and watching them get an education.
Okay. So what exactly? Oh, go ahead, Stan.
Sorry, real quick, and you might actually be getting ready to say it, because that was a coin term and phrase that we missed in our podcast. The HBCU experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's where you were going with it, Kyle.
Yep.
I didn't mean to step on your toes, but
No, you're good. You're good.
You heard that and it rung my bell.
Yeah. So both of you guys, what is the HBCU experience?
I'll jump in. The HBCU experience, and I wanna say this. The title, when it says PWI versus HBCU, I look at it as PWIs in comparison to HBCU, because it's all getting an education. Now, the HBCU experience, just to drop a little historical fact in, we were established in order to give Afro-American men and women an opportunity to education for the base when we weren't allowed to go to other institutions. So they created athletic programs and things like that. And as Bree stated, it gives you that history and that sense of pride of who you are as a Black man and as a Black woman. And that is irreplaceable when you get that experience, when you have people to love on you, where you go in the cafeteria and you say, "Hey, mama," and they treat you like they're the son, or you know, the men working on campus, the women and the men that's in the classroom, where, you know, 5-10 years down the road, they'll find you and they'll ask about you. You remember certain instructors or coaches that played a key part in your life transition. I mean, I can go down a list of so many different people where they said certain things, or they grabbed me and pulled me up, where Coach Alicia Shield Gasson, which was the head coach at Alcorn State University at the time, one of the doctors in the education department literally would bring me over on the weekend, and I would wash her car and she would cook food. Another one of the doctors would bring me over, and he would feed me and my friends and things like that. And I had an opportunity. Like I said, I went to a JUCO first, but it's a PWI, and it's a really, really nice school. I didn't get any of that. But again, I don't knock anybody for whatever choice that they make. But the HBCUs exist for people who get a chance, even today, when other people may not give you that same opportunity. But when we was first established, our elite athletes were going to HBCUs. Yep. Because they didn't have a choice. Now we're living in a generation where everybody got so many choices. And I don't knock anybody for their choices, and everybody deserves a right to their choice. But I tell you one thing, the HBCU experience is like no other. And I'll tell anybody, if you learn how to survive the HBCU experience, you can survive anywhere, because it teaches you a sense of self-pride. You learn how to create some economic stability for yourself. You understand when you wake up, the early bird has to get the worm. You got to be first in line, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to give it to you. And I still stand by this today. The HBCU experience right now, from what I see from my side of it, it is as close to reality as you're going to get, because everything that you get is earned and nothing is given. So that's kind of like my take on it.
Okay, so you bring up a good point, Coach Bean, because what I take from that is this. I know friends, and again, I'm gonna just use loose terms. I'm not necessarily like trying to define them, but try to make sense of the picture. So let's say you got your inner city kid, you got your inner city Black kid, you got your suburban Black kid. All right, and I have friends from both sides. So I've been in, I've been in rooms where I remember in high school and even in middle school, those young men and young women, they knew right away they wanted to go to an HBCU, and their parents wanted them to, because they wanted them to get exactly what you just said. And then you take me and my household, I was getting it every single day, and I had gotten it for 18 years, to where my mother encouraged me, because I initially wanted to go to Tennessee State. That's when my brother, he went and he played football. But I initially wanted to go there, but she said, "Nah, you've had enough of that. I need for you to learn the other side." And so she encouraged me to learn the other side, in that regard. So I get it there. I definitely understand that there. And I encourage anybody, any student, any parent, it's a matter of balance, because for as pro-Black as we can all be, we still need to understand, and we need to know how to navigate any conversation in any room. And so I do believe that the Black experience is needed. If I can go do it again, Texas Southern they should have given me a little bit more money, in my opinion, at that time, and I would have been at Texas Southern experiencing that. And as we get ready for Lamont to put on one hell of a meet in the spring, I'm gonna throw out there, we need some marching bands out there. I ain't brought it up to you yet, Lamont, but we need to have some marching bands out there. in the stands. I'm serious. I'm so serious.
You'll be fired.
Can I say
Yeah.
something real quick?
Yeah.
I guess one of the misnomers about HBCUs, which can be intimidating to some people, they think it's just for only Black people. And HBCUs are open to everybody, every background, culture, sexuality. It doesn't matter. And as a coach, when I was a coach at South Carolina State, you know, a lot of people who are not Black thought it was only for Black people. So I had to let them know, like Coach Bean was saying, I gave them the history of the reason why. And that's part of the thing, like our culture doesn't really know, like, one, we don't know American history or Black history, but also the point of Black education or Black HBCUs. So once I explained that, it was more or less, oh, and we had, you know, more than just Black people at Alabama State and more than just Black people at South Carolina State.
Absolutely.
I think once we educate the population about that, because a lot of people will present like, oh, that's HBCUs are racist. I'm like, no, see, you're reading the wrong narrative again, and it's open to everybody, and it was set up so that we can attain education because that was denied to us and our people for a very long time.
I agree. So
isn't that the overarching theme and the kind of full circle moment that we're dealing with right now is this, let's call it this uber clarity of, for a large, vast majority of people that look like us, we've been systemically conditioned through society's perception and perspectives of how and what things are supposed to be, wherein maybe at all times, especially, you know, folks that, you know, are currently at the HBCU levels, you know, like you said, you know, you're having to explain this narrative, but you guys, you know, the HBCUs never initiated the narrative of it's only for Black, you know, for Black folks. And then once desegregation and those walls came down and the top athletes could start going to PWIs, I really wish I knew or I could remember the person that said it. I'll have to look for it after we're done, but they said that as good as segregation was, it was probably the biggest problem for people of color because it then minimized the Black dollar and how it matriculated through the community. It closed a lot of businesses, and then it kind of fractured. It's so funny how, and my conspiracy theory is, right when they started killing off all the people that were trying to help, you know, people of color establish themselves in society, those late 60s where we lost Malcolm, Martin, John F. Kennedy, and a variety of people, then, you know, the desegregation stuff started to happen. Then, you know, as Mont could tell you that New York used to look like a war zone. Then you have the drugs to come and zombify the folks. And then now, you know, we're trying to escape the plight of what our communities was, associating a lesser than mindset or mind state of, well, if I do this, just like what was told to me, if you go to an HBCU, your resume is not going to read as well as the next person. When you can easily put a Morehouse degree and a Harvard degree side by side and be comparable. You know what I mean? So that was just a sidebar that I wanted to laminate.
yeah, so my question I want to throw out to everybody out here is how can we essentially bridge the gap? Because our whole reason for putting the PWI versus HBCU is a catchy title. But once we got into it, it really wasn't a versus. So and I'll use Georgia State for an example. Like I said, a lot of people think we are an HBCU and we're not. We are predominantly Black and brown. We are, as a campus, we're a great representation of what Atlanta is, but we're not an HBCU at all. Now, we graduate a lot of Black students as well. Still, we're not an HBCU. I hear the flight of the bumblebee at our football game. So I still got to hear that. I don't get to hear, you know, Morris Day in the Time, or, you know, or Mays, Frankie. I don't get to hear that at the football games. But what can we do? Like all of us sitting right now on this panel, like what can we do being in the positions that we are to say, hey, you know, check this out. This may be a good fit for you or whatever. Because clear as day, what we do know and because Coach Bean, and this will be something helpful. I know for me, I know for Stamps, I know for Jabri, and definitely Lamont. You said that every time you had an opportunity, your institution matched it. They came back and matched it. So right there is no secret that there's money out there, or there are things that can be negotiated. So what can we do on both sides of the fence to help one another out? Whether we be at a PWI or an HBCU, what are some things we can do to help each other?
First thing is what we're doing now, bridging the gap and communicating and actually having real conversations. I think one of the biggest things that we do a lot of, and now it's starting to happen more, is where we're starting to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I am super guilty in the past where I kind of just stayed off to myself for several different reasons. But when we sit down and we actually talk to each other from every aspect and not look at someone as a big eyes, little U's and things like that. And I'll talk to a Jabri Harris and I'll talk to Mud, and we just work with one another. We just don't do enough of it, or we do it in groups. If
Mm-hmm.
I don't already know you or you're not connected with somebody, instead of just coming along and say, hey man, let me introduce myself to you and open up these conversations. That's where it starts. That's where, like, I'm at a point in my life, I wasn't always like it because I didn't know how people actually felt about me. Everybody go through their trials and tribulations. One thing I've learned in this coaching business, somebody can tell me a narrative about Stamps, and until I go to him man to man and get to know him as a person, people will have you thinking to believe in a whole nother narrative about different people.
Oh boy, I can testify to that.
And I
Man,
don't like that. And that's why I have, over the years, I've kind of stayed in my own corner. But I was like, I'm doing people a disservice by not doing that. When we at conventions and things like that, I've always walked around like, why do they not give HBCU to do a workshop and explain from our position how budgeting works, how you build a championship program with limited budgets and things like that. And because there's more limited budget institution, both PWIs, HBCUs that have limited budget, why don't we come together and talk to each other about contract negotiation, about recruiting, or erase this myth about if you go here that you're not going to be successful? Because I was one of those people told in high school, if I went to a HBCU, people are not going to respect you or respect your degree or give you a job, which is another one of the main reasons why I have stuck with doing what I do, because I continuously erase that myth when I have young men and young women that go on to be doctors, that open up their own businesses, that's out there coaching and winning championships as coaches. So it goes back to sitting down and talking to each other and erase. Man, I can't even say, if I didn't get a chance to talk to certain people and other people that wrote the narrative about their life, you would think like, man, this person can't coach, this person not a good person, or this person, this, that, and the third one. I said, man, this is not the, I was like, wow. I mean, and have fun and respect one another. And I think we've gotten so far away from that in this profession. You just kind of think about for a second, when we get around different people in this business, everybody talk about what the kid did on the track or in the field. How many people actually have real conversation about the lives they changed, about what the young people, what the students have done when they graduate? I take more pride in my kids' academic success than their athletic success, because if they're making good decisions in the classroom, they're gonna make good decisions on the track. And I want them to lead with some substance behind them. Not going to say, you know what, you're running super fast, you're jumping far, you're jumping high, you're throwing, and you know what, you might have some academic challenges. Let me put you over here in this major so we can keep you eligible. No, let's find out why you're struggling. Let me talk to your high school counselor. Let me talk to your parents. Let's collaborate with the academic council, you're going to walk out of here with a meaningful degree. And so again, it goes back to communicating. What we're doing right now is the cornerstone to opening up more conversation about how do we advance ourselves as a sport, as a university, and we can compare and contrast between the two and see that at the end of the day, we're no different than the majority of the schools out here, because right now, here's a fact. You got more mid-majors cutting sports right now than you have HBCUs for whatever reason.
That's a valid point. It's a valid point, man.
Mic drop.
Seriously. And so, go ahead, Lamont.
You know, there is one thing that I do want to touch on, and it goes with the HBCU stereotypes, and I'm going in a professional direction here. This is notion that the coaches that come from HBCUs can't thrive at a PWI. And that is a topic that needs to be discussed. That is a myth that needs to be busted. Okay, because Jabri already proved it with the UNLV, now he's at Illinois. Many of y'all already know my path. This thing where, well, all they do is scandal and, well, they don't coach well, they don't develop their athletes, and so on and so forth. Well, that's a complete lie. If I'm not mistaken, I think Richie Bean has the most conference title of any active coach in the NCAA right now. Yeah, active. You know me, I'm gonna throw stats out like it ain't nobody's business.
Hey, Lamont, and they can recruit down there too, because I lost a good one to him this year.
Right, and and for Richie Bean and George Williams, who they are the cornerstones of success. Richie Bean is like I say, he's the most active. He has the most conference titles of any active coach, and Coach Williams has the most national championships of any active coach. So the two best coaches on the conference and national levels are from HBCUs, but yet still we're getting this label of, well, if they was at an HBCU, I don't know if I want them at my prestigious university, as if we can't coach or we can't run a program. If anything, we should be the first ones to go after, because most of us have to run a budget that is so minuscule and so tiny, and we still were able to make it to our national championship meet, our conference meet, without a hiccup. So what our budget normally is what most of them spend on their women's side for apparel. Okay, and that's apparel alone. Yeah. So can you imagine if we had a $14 million operations budget?
Yeah.
I'm running at the Mars Invitational every other week. Okay, I'm running on somebody else's continent. Someone that's just doing all kinds of craziness. But all jokes aside, we have to remove that label. What do we do to finally remove the label that we are able to perform at a high level at a PWI? How do we go to our colleagues, our Black colleagues who are at these big schools and say, hey man, put our name out there. We do it for everybody else. Why can't you do it for me? Which is why I said what I said when Richie had his podcast. I said, well, he needs to be voted into the Hall of Fame as soon as possible. There should be no waiting for him. He's a Hall of Fame coach. So what can we do to help advance the assistant coaches that want to go to may want to work at a Nebraska? Because everybody got a dream school they want to work for. Everybody has one. Let's not lie. We all got our dream position. So what can we do? And I asked Jabri and I asked Richie, what can we do to help remove that myth?
Great.
I'll say one thing that's been helpful for me, and this part is just the tip of the iceberg, is a lot of history that goes back to that. That's once again, the history of the United States and the perception of Black people and as such. So it's so many layers to that question. But the way I can relate it, is that what I do as a coach and as an athlete, whenever someone asks me as an athlete, yo, you went to Tennessee, and mind you, Tennessee is, I love Tennessee. That's great brothers, great friends there. But I always say my heart is old, gold, and black, but my blood is orange, 151 orange. And that is true. I was in Knoxville for 10 years. Then me as a coach going to Alabama, going to South Carolina State, then going to UNLV, I always tell people I started at South Carolina State. And the thing that I get annoyed with sometimes, even when I came to Illinois, oh, you moved up. Oh, you got the better athletes now. I'm like, oh, time out. And I always go in and defend when someone says that, because that's the misnomer yet again. You go to a PWI or a non-HBCU, you got the better athletes, and you're moving up. I'm like, actually, a lot of my athletes at South Carolina State are tough, and they'll battle by any other school in the nation. It's just the amount of respect that you're not giving them. So I use my voice and I use my actions, but also as a black man who coaches primarily distance, that's a whole nother field of me moving into, be it to UNLV and Illinois. And the hesitation with that could be the opportunities that people want to present to us. Not because, let me just give a black man a try because he's black, but also let me look at his resume. And the great thing that I've learned about coaching at South Carolina State, and Tyree Price was my head coach, and like you were saying earlier, most coaches, what I've seen, we have to know how to coach. You get these young men and young women, you got to develop. Because the so-called stars are going to the big, PWIs, and back in the day, the big, the superstar black athletes went to HBCUs. Like just looking at NFL or a lot of other sports, they all started HBCUs. So right now, we'll get some top athletes, but we get a lot of developmental athletes, and we produce, like Coach Bean he just produced and developed. But also we have to know the foundation of how this business works. Like the stuff I learned at South Carolina State with Tyree was that learning how admissions work, knowing how to manage compliance, how to manage the receipts, just the whole function of the business, so that if we were given an opportunity or took an opportunity at a, let's say, major school with larger resources, we already know the nitty gritty of how it works. And what I see on this side of the coin, it'll say a Power 5 school, you have a director of ops, you got this person doing that, you have that person doing this. So you pretty much just coach. You're still managing a business, but as far as knowing how it all works, I value the education I had at South Carolina State. And honestly, with Coach Yvonne Wade at UNLV in mid-major school, where she gave me a budget, gave me a scholarship allotment. So for 5 years, yet again, I had to learn how to manage a program. But it started with Tyree. Then Yvonne just enhanced what I had to learn. And what I see from a Power 5 school yet again is like, some people may not know how it really works and are fortunate that they have those positions where they do mostly just coach. And a lot of coaches I do know and respect out of the HBCUs, be it MEAC, SWAC, is that, and all schools, probably like with you, Mont, you got to know how to make it work. You know the business side of things. And I think once people understand that, and it goes back to us having this conversation, me in my position, when I get to these points, I let people know, oh, I started coaching at South Carolina State. My athletes were tough. They became some people. They're police officers. They work for the FBI. They're in government. They're lawyers. And that's what they keep shooting down. Like, you can't get an education. So I always talk about that. And even with my athletic career, oh, you did great at Tennessee. I'm like, but there will not be a Jabri Harris like Alabama State. It wouldn't happen. That was my foundation as a man. And Tennessee just polished me up. So I always say I'm fortunate, and I wish everybody could experience a HBCU and a PWI to get the version of all of it as a whole and put it together. But we just got to keep talking about it and speaking about it and not being afraid. I'm not afraid to talk about how I started coaching or athletically. And I like to say I'm trying to do my part. And even when I meet athletes that come on campus where I know, and I have some young men, young women come on campus who they feel uncomfortable at a PWI. And I'm like, you should look into, and I've sent some athletes down to Alabama State. Hey, check out Alabama State. That's I know you feel that way at this institution, but me listening to you, this might be the best opportunity for where you are in your growth. So if I do get athletes or recruits, I'm not ashamed to say, hey, look into the MEAC, look into the SWAC, and I'll name off different schools and tell them about the education, because I am a product of that education as well. So
I want to chime in for a second. First thing I want to say, how do we bridge that gap? One is you have to position yourself.
yeah.
Life is about positioning yourself. All right. Meaning that it's no different than, let's go back to when for some of you guys, you're single. For me, I'm married, but when you was dating, or if you're dating, if there's somebody you like, you position yourself so that they see who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Or not, guys, every last person that I'm looking at on the screen, believe and trust me when I say this, they see you. Keep positioning yourself. Life is about putting yourself in position. You don't need, a lot of times the loudest person in the room can be the weakest person in the room, but you position yourself and you listen. The other thing is, everybody on the screen and so many other people that's trying to make that move, knowledge is power. Just rolled off about all the many things, the many hats that he had to wear at South Carolina State. Month, the many different hats that you have to wear just to get your team on the road. And
Yes.
the after-hour counseling sessions. I'll give you an example. The other night, one of my student athletes was going through a situation with a parent where she had to make maybe even a serious like life or death situation, determining, hey, if I should say go ahead and take this let the paramedics give my dad this medicine. And she called me about 11 o'clock at night. It's like, Coach Dean, will you pray with me? And me and my wife holding hands while we're on speakerphone, praying through those situations where there's another situation where a kid parent passes away and all of these things. And we don't have all of the luxuries where people can kind of just push after over here. We got these people over. No, we are those people. We're trying to figure it out. So when knowledge becomes power and you empower yourself, it's a great thing, but it also can be intimidating to so many different people. You imagine if you want to make that transition over and you know how to work a budget, you know how to communicate with academics, you know how to look at you're the person that actually working with compliance, breaking down transcript. You can almost tell the kids as soon as you see this stuff, hey, it's going to be a go. It's not going to be a go. All of these little bitty things, and you're successful at it at a small school. I sat with a coach that's very well respected in the game. And he was like, well, how do you do it? And I broke it down to myself, man, from 8 to about 12 or 1 o'clock, I'm lecturing classes on campus. After I'm done lecturing classes, now I got to deal with the administrative stuff to try to figure out and make sure the check is cut.
Yeah.
Everything's good to go. Double checking, making sure the bus is going to be on time.
With gas. And
you have to check with sometimes other people to make sure that they've done their job, because we don't have a operation person. I don't have I forgot, I still got a coach.
Yeah.
And still have a family, a wife, children. That's important. And we're balancing all of this. And so sometimes when I broke that down to this well-respected coach, and he was like, man, you do all of that.
I can testify to that.
I need on my side. It's like, this coach told me, we will work together one day when the time is right. But at the end of the day, for me as a head coach, I can't be intimidated by my assistant coach's success. I want every one of my assistant coaches to be successful. I've had opportunity to coach hurdles. I've had an opportunity to coach 200 on up to the 10K. I've coached pole ball. And when I first became a head coach, I was working myself to death. I'm like, why am I doing this? Let me find people who are good at what they're doing and give them an opportunity. Here, here's what you got. You take it, you run it. Do what you do. By the end of the day, I want somebody to want you. At the end of the day, I want you to move up. I want to take my team and my assistant coaches to meets where people see them. Mutt, I see you. Jabri, I see you. Stamps, I see you. I see all of you guys. And you best believe other people see you. They either want you on or they intimidated by it. And trust and believe, people, there are people out there who are intimidated by rising coaches. They are intimidated by that. Because if
you ain't saying that.
58 quarter miler and you look up and they running 53s, how did you do that? You take a 219 and now they had a 210 in 2 years. How did you do that? And you know how to manage a budget, and you know how to win people over. I've seen and heard stories of head coaches being intimidated because assistant coaches have better relationships with the athletes. That's insane to me. I want my coaches to have amazing relationship with the athletes, because if you're going to be a head coach somewhere one day, you better know how to establish relationships, build a relationship with your head coach that you can trust him or her to have a relationship with the athlete, so you can go deal with the administrative stuff, you deal with the budgeting, and you got somebody that's got your back. That's how you start bridging that gap. I'm not afraid of anybody. Right now, within the next year or so, one of my assistants, he no longer would be Michael Snap. He would be Dr. Michael Snap. I'm at least a little bit intimidated by that, because I want to see him be the best version of himself. If, you know what would be so cool? If one day, once he finished that, and he's the AD or something, I'm not saying that's the path he want to go, and I work for him, I will be a honorable servant up under him and give him everything I got. I wouldn't, if Jabri said, hey man, I'm going to be the head coach over here, being, I want you to come, he wouldn't feel intimidated. I would serve under him and do my job to the fullest, because I want him to look good. And we know in this business, as men and as women, even both of color and all races, they get to a certain point where women are starting to break through as head coach and run both men and women program, but that wasn't always the case. There have been situations where certain coaches get to a certain point and they coach kind of just like keep them at bay. Well, I would say to those coaches, if you feel like you've been like that, like LeBron said, take your talents elsewhere. It may have to start with a HBCU or a smaller mid-major school, so that you can create your own narrative. And that's one of the big, I see too many people in this business creating narrative for people that haven't even sat down and talked to and make up stuff. And that's one thing that bothers me about this business, is that right there.
Crazy.
And it's also that interesting, if we're always myth busting, which is what I'm so thankful that you're doing right now, Coach Bean, even Jabri with your experience and Mont's in it right now, and even Kyle's new ascension to the director's chair at State. Like, imagine the consternation, a brain and a subconscious feels when in high school you were told that you'd be less than. As a professional in your world, even us good assistant coaches are told, stay away from the HBCUs, you get trapped. It's a trap situation. If you go there, you'll never make your way out.
Don't get stuck.
Don't get stuck. So,
That's how you muted your mic.
Lives Matter, or this company or that company is donate this. We have to find a way, in my mind, to reinvest into the HBCUs so they can gain, like we said in our last podcast, so Under Armour can come in and take $10 million for the MEAC and say, hey, boom, do this or whatever. So it is more enticing for a student athlete of prowess to come to an institution, because if facilities is an issue, rectify it. We're watching this new urban spring, so to speak, of protest, of new equality, and the federal government has been in concert, minimizing the amount of money they can give to HBCUs or what they can do. Just with how things have happened throughout society. I was reading an article I think last night where it's like a $200 million disparity in the public school system across the country on schools in better areas than the inner city school. And how is it 2020 and we're still dealing with this discrepancy of educational opportunity?
So in the middle of your discussion, Stamps, I'm an idea guy. Johnson C. Smith has a beautiful facility, Munt. Now, in the realm of sport, I'm gonna throw it out there. It needs to be a HBCU versus everybody. I think you send out an email, you get some of the best talent, because look, Alabama State has had some incredible sprinters and jumpers and 800 runners since my time here in Atlanta. I've seen them. Again, at your time at Virginia State, I've seen them. St. All gonna do what they gonna do. Johnson C. Smith, y'all are on the rise, but a HBCU versus everybody meet. Put it on. I'm just throwing it out there.
Here's
I
the
don't have a track.
Like some of y'all already know, because everyone's budget is being, shackled this upcoming year.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
That's okay.
Everyone's budget is being shackled this year. I am planning on holding, a second meet the week of Penn, but I'm holding a one-day meet on that Friday. My superiors already told me I have to push going to Penn the following year. Even though I wanted to go there because it was supposed to be the 100th anniversary of HBCUs running that Penn, but I can't go over my boss's head what my boss says I got to do. So I was thinking about holding a one-day meet. We're not going to hold all the events, but we're going to hold a good amount of relays, a good amount of individual events, and just make it a one-day spectacular, man, so everybody can get in and get out. So I'm definitely going to get that word out there, and we're going to do the best we can. I'm not going to be charging people an arm and a leg, $300 per gender. I think anybody who hears that, they can be like, yo, I'm with it. There's no need for me to do that because I'm holding a high school meet on a separate week, so I'm gonna make up all that money back anyway. So the give schools, HBCUs especially, because we're the ones that's gonna get shackled. Unfortunately, it gives us an opportunity to run in a hotly contested meet and on a great track. Into April where the weather's gonna be great. And it won't be an all day thing. It's not like we're gonna be running 15 heats of the 4x1. No, we're running three, maybe 4 heats of the 4x1. We'll probably run the 100, but not the 200. We'll probably run the 400 hurdles, but not the open 4. We'll do the long jump, or maybe do the long jump for the men, but the triple for the women, or reverse. We do 2 throws. We're definitely put in the distance events because the distance runners need a place to run to. So we'll probably run a steeplechase and then come back with a mile, or it depends on how many 800-meter runners decide they want to run. Okay, they want to move up to the 8, they want to move up to the 15. Okay, cool. We'll probably just run a 4x8 so the 800-meter runners have something that they can run, so they can still get that work in, So, I'm in the infant stages of getting that together. So, but it's gonna be mostly for everybody. But I'm definitely gearing towards the HBCU so they can have an opportunity to put up great times and go into their conference meet confident, and so on and so forth. My team is gonna run. We're probably gonna run the 4x1 and 4x4 because our conference meets the following week. Just use as a full out practice. But my guys gonna go out there and want to compete. Leave it all out there. And we just make the adjustments, and we just go into our conference meeting, we go compete, then we go to nationals, and we do what we do. So that's the plan. That's the plan right now. I definitely will be getting everybody that information. But HBCU wise, we have to do things that's gonna help illustrate and highlight the positive. I'm tired of people talking about, oh, well, we heard your school's not accredited. If it wasn't accredited, it wouldn't be open. Like, these fabricated lies and things like that. I mean, it's ridiculous now. It's not that we're not accredited. We are accredited. Okay, we just don't have all the majors that everybody wants. That's the difference. That's the only difference between the small private HBCUs and probably the state HBCUs. And even with the state HBCUs, when I was at Virginia State, they thought Virginia State wasn't accredited either, because we had to get an audit done, which is standard with every school. They automatically assume, oh, it went from they getting an audit to, oh, they shutting the school down because they got some graduating. No. Let me stop the lies and the rumors now. Every HBCU school that I know that has an athletic program is accredited. Okay. If you have questions, pick up the phone, call us, email us, and we'd be more than happy to have those conversations.
Cool. So Lamont, and with that, I agree. So I know we got to get out of here. As we come to a close, man, essentially, it's not a matter of one survives without the other, but really, it's what that individual needs, and we in this together. Like I've said before, success is a shared responsibility. Like none of us get anywhere without someone or something helping us get there. And even just back to the whole track meet idea, as I throw these at you, Lamont, it's just I gotta live through you guys that have a facility, and it doesn't have to happen this year. It doesn't have to happen next year. I'm reading a book right now, the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And one of the chapters is saying you plan for what you do in the present is going to determine the future. And with the whole scope of things, with what's going on with the NCAA, with the uncertainty of track and field, because we've discussed like is the sport down or whatever, and just everything. And I'm a creative by nature, but HBCUs in general, when you look at the CIAA tournament and the sport of track and field, there's an opportunity, even if it's not an HBCU, but there's an opportunity to create a model or to create an event that, because pin relays isn't what pin relays used to be, but there is an opportunity for somebody to create something of big entertainment value at the NCAA level. I think the HBCUs can do it because y'all got the flavor. Black people, we got the flavor. So what we come up with, people are gonna follow that model. So again, man, even if it's not this year or next year, in the next 3 to 5 years, though, somebody pull it off. Somebody.
There is an HBCU Classic in New York City in the Armory. The only issue is it's the time of the year that they're hosting it, and the financial logistics of it. I'm always going to be in support of doing that. The biggest problem right now, and I think that is going to get fixed. We have to now become self-contained, and we have to get our money up. Like I already know what my fundraisers are going to be. By hook or crook, I got 4 fundraisers. By the time the school year is over, I'm going to have close to almost $90,000. You know what I'm saying? Just fundraising alone. So I'm going to be able to do all the things I want to do. I plan on taking part of that money and putting it in a fund where it becomes endowment, to where I can start. The program can survive on its own. Without having to solely rely on the school for financial backing. So, that's a step right there. And I want everyone to pay very close attention to that, to what I just said. Everyone has, if you get access to a large sum of money, don't worry about the gear and worry about all that other stuff. You have to sacrifice for that 1 year. Say, let me put this money into this account, get it approved by your president. And believe you me, most of the presidents are going to be all for that. If there's any way you can find a way to survive, they're going to push you to do it. So I would suggest that everyone go out there and do that. But going back to the meet in New York, I want to support that meet. I know the man who holds that meet. He saw me down at JDL, and at the JDL meet down out there in Winston-Salem, and he told me about the meet, and I'm like, you know what, I really want to support that meet, but we need one for outdoors, and what better location is centralized right there, and I'm covering myself right here in Charlotte. Easy hub. You can drive here. It's 6 hours from most directions. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, we can get a very good thing going. Even Prairie View got probably the best facility. Prairie View and A&T got the two of the three best facilities in all of the HBCU. We need to figure out a way how to get
Prairie View track is fast. That track is fast.
So if we can get someone like Bean, and then the coaches, because I know there's still a split program. You get the coaches from Prairie View, and you get Ross and myself, and we sit down and we come together to put a meet together and present it to our presidents and stuff like that. And then we present it. Once we present it to the presidents, now we get to the SID. The SID get it out, and we get it to the media outlets. Now we're gonna start seeing things moving in a direction. Because think about it. You put on a meet like Texas Southern put on me. Have y'all been to the Texas Southern relays? I've been there once, and that was by far the most fun I ever had to meet as a competitor. I mean, they got the music blasting in the middle. Once that gun go off, they was playing Juvenile. They was playing Weed.
Yes.
I'm talking about it was pumping. And then at when the 4x4 came up, the track was cleared. And then once the stagger broke, they let everybody come on the track and stay between 5 and out. And so everyone was on the track to cheer you on, come out the home track. It was one of the most best experiences I ever had. I ran my fastest relay split there too, but you know, that's why I'm kind of biased to me. But it was one of the best experiences I ever had, and it was Texas Southern. You know what I'm saying? So if we can come up with something like that, if we can get the hitters, like I said, Bean, Ross, get the coaches from Prairie View, myself, because we got the facilities. Bean has a cachet, Ross has a cachet, and we can all come together and we can stop thinking about our stuff and start thinking about the totality of what we can do. Because the more HBCUs are successful, the more you start seeing the pendulum shift. And I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, it's questions and statements. With that, so different ways of looking at it is sometimes we can segregate ourselves from situations where, and I'm just playing devil's advocate. Yeah, we have a meet for HBCU colleges, but one thing Coach Bean was saying, the way we advance is that we get into the system. And I make a point, one of our old teammates, Leonard Scott, like with all the police brutality going on, he's a police officer. He made a post that the reason why he became a police officer is to help change and uproot the system to make it better. So the question is, and definitely for Coach Bean and the head coaches here, one, why is it that it's tough for us to get into these big meets? Do you think that schools are intimidated to get that challenge from HBCUs? But two, it's where I understand that we want to have ours and keep the money in the HBCU community, but the way that we advance is that we hopefully or invite all universities and make some kind of incentive for the PWI to come to our school to that track meet so we can highlight that, because what those athletes see, they see, I go to HBCU, I don't get to go to this meet. We only run against black schools. We don't run against PWI school. So in a sense, it's a way that we got to work it to where we're not segregating ourselves.
Right.
But be able to invite everybody. But it's kind of weird to say, we got to get the open opportunity from those big schools and those big track meets to go shine, to have our athletes, have the HBCU athletes shine and compete and show that there's no difference. Because me, like I said, me as a coach, the athletes at South Carolina State are no different than the athletes here at Illinois. But a lot of people want to portray that, but it's really no different in a sense as far as quality and talent by any means.
Let me go first real quick, because mine gonna be quick. I'm new in the game and I'm young. So my answer to is that Jabri is I don't know nobody. Because I'm serious. Because right now I've done it the most legit way, because I probably just haven't met them in passing or at convention. I've sent the emails. I've made the phone calls.
Yeah.
Right now I just don't know anybody. So I can't say I've been boxed out, but I'm just not in yet.
So I will tell you from my perspective that when I do hold my home meets, I send it out to everybody. It just so happens that it's always the same crew that decides to show up. You know, there's nothing I can do about that. I mean, I don't leave nobody out. And what I mean by hosting these meets is that, okay, it's time for us to get these top level meets onto our campuses. That's not excluding, the Iowa States, the Alabamas, the A&Ms. That's not excluding them, but it's helping giving us opportunity to be seen, like Richie said, for us to be seen that, yo, we can hold the meet. We can run a meet professionally. No, everyone's not going to be as stringent as Pat Henry down in A&M. I've heard about how he runs his meets. Nah, we not going to be that, that stringent. But, we want them to be at the meets. Of course, what to do. Listen, money is money. I'm not going to turn away no damn money. Let's be clear, okay? But they're going to have to be willing to come. And we're going to have to be willing to put a product together that's going to make them come. We want them to be there. I will never not send them emails. I'll say, hey, we're holding a meet on these 2 days. We'd love to have y'all. They come, they come. They don't, they don't. What they want to see, fast times. They start seeing fast times, then all of a sudden they're going to want to show up, even though the track, it ain't the track, it's the athlete. You got a bunch of bums running on Arkansas track, you're going to get a bunch of bum times, let's be real. So, when we're not excluding them, we want them to be there.
So you asked about how do we bridge the gap, how do we get into the meets. I'm gonna say something that may not be very popular. Okay, we've heard it a lot in our conversation today. We hear it a lot around and everything that's going on. PWI, HBCU. I go back to what I said earlier. The basis of it, people getting an education with sports involved.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, we know our history, know the history of other institutions, but until we bridge the gap and understand what the history is and say, you know what, we'll forever be an HBCU, but we're still an educational institution where we should be able to work and with everybody and not be one type of school excluded, one type of school included. I've seen every level of it where we weren't invited in to now we being invited in. But you have to be at the door, continue knocking. You have to have a vision in order to elevate your way of thinking, able to have a vision to communicate. And like you said at Georgia State, you have to start positioning yourself and start having the conversations. And you have to coach your young people up to when they go to the meets, wherever they are, you have to show up and show out. There's a certain level of professionalism across.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen coaches from all types of institutions that are very professional, and I've seen some that's unprofessional. But at the end of the day, you have to create that vision. You have to have a plan if you want to go to any of these institutions. But at some point, we have to we understand the history of it, but we have to let the term PWI go. We have to let the term HBCU go and say, hey, we're all institution and we're all people. Because at the end of the day, when one of us bleed, everybody is going to be red blood. At the end of the day, I don't care where it is, it's 400 meters.
Yep.
End of the day, everybody got to suit up and hold his and her own self accountable. And yes, I love working at Alabama State University, but at the end of the day, when we load up the bus and when we in the hotel and we getting ready to pray it up, I always tell them, tomorrow we're going to take care of university business. We're going to take care of university business. It's about the brand. It's not about Richie Bean. It's about the Alabama State brand, and we're taking care of university business. You walk in there and you conduct yourself like a professional. Do that, people will see you. They might not always respect you, but they will see you. Every last one of you guys on the screen, they see you. And when they see you, how you represent yourself, you are your own brand within yourself. And it doesn't matter if a person don't respect you today, tomorrow, or even 3 years from now. Your quality and body of work going to speak for itself. And at some point, you're not going to be denied. You write your own narrative. You create your own path. When you walk into a room, you shouldn't have to tell anybody, I'm Jabri Harris, I'm Munt Johnson, or whatever. Your name already means something, because when you were born into this world, you inherited that. And you plant that seed of success, and people will bring you in. It might not happen today. It might not happen tomorrow. When we first started, it was only in-state meets that we got a chance to go to. But as we got better, these people, and I said, you know what? Let me shake hands. Let me go stand beside this person. It was one particular coach would never speak to me. We rode on the same plane together, got in the elevator together. We were from the same state and wouldn't even speak to me. But then now, hey Richie, hey man, hey, what about you guys coming to our meeting? Let's collaborate on some stuff. But at the end of the day, I wasn't this angry person. It was about timing.
Yep.
It's about love and it's about caring for my man, despite of. Because if I'm not perfect, everybody on the screen has made mistakes.
Yes.
Got a lot of things right, and we probably done a lot of things wrong. But at the end of the day, we still men, and there are women out there, and it's about your body and quality of work. At the end of the day, keep knocking. The door will open. Please believe that.
It's 2 times in one day, so we got to end it there, man. Coach Bean he's blessed us on this Saturday afternoon. But I won't let y'all get out of here just because this is like a sequel to the previous episode. So Coach Bean and Jabri, we gotta put you guys on the spot. So we're gonna start ending our episodes, man. You gotta give somebody their flowers while they're still here. So as we're navigating these times, man, we want to continue these type of conversations, but we want to show that appreciation to someone that may not get their name called a lot, or they may get their name called, but whomever that may just stand out to you, man, and you want to show them some appreciation and gratitude. Now is your time to give that person their flowers while they can still smell them.
Can I say something before I do that?
Yeah.
Always.
Not always. But it's a point that it's a question that was asked to me because I want to not just give, I'd say, the black side of things, but as a coach who coached more than just black athletes, how is it recruiting or coaching non-black athletes? And due to where things are highlighted in our community, where these tough conversations are, and everybody wants to speak to the black athlete and not the non-black athletes, I'm fortunate to be comfortable to talk with a person from every background and sexuality. I've been fortunate to have been put in those positions, and also me as a man at UNLV, coaching women and hoping to want to understand women's health. I've recruited places in Beverly Hills, and so the thing I would get was like, Jabri, you can't relate, and that's the stuff that get put on me. And I like to show that it's not about if we can relate, and even more so, like some of the white coaches right now having those quote unquote tough conversations with black athletes. And my coach at Tennessee was a white man, Coach Watts and Coach Anderson. It's about you as a person. We put these labels on color so hard. Like me as a black man who coaches distance, you can't relate. How about judge me as a person? Or that white woman or white person who coaches sprints. If they can relate to that individual, not for their color, we could go a whole lot further and evaluate talent, a coach's talent, and also the athlete's talent, and not just be judged by color, because that happens a lot, be it with administration. We need to get this person in because they look this way, they're going to fit in, or they look like the athletes per se, to where if a coach who is, let's say, white, hopefully want to have the education, want to have the knowledge to listen to other people's points of views, we can move further. And what I would love to say I have tried to do, I'm not a woman, but when I coach my female athletes, I'm listening. When I coach my non-black athletes, and some of my black athletes, because some people think they came on a Mayflower, you sit there and you listen. That's the point of being a leader. Your first job is to listen, then we go from there. So I would love for us to hopefully, it's tough for the foundation of our society to bridge those gaps or knock out what a person looks like or their assumptions of a man or woman can't do this and that, as opposed to us coaches being judged by our talent or mainly how we relate to people, no matter what color they are or the athlete's color. But that's just what I want to get out, that I feel comfortable doing it because of the coaches I've had of all colors, white and black, that they were comfortable with me. And to answer your question about the roses, the people, I will say this, and I don't think I ever told these guys this, and women, the coaches of the MEAC, to be honest, when I was at South Carolina State coaching, and when I went to UNLV and here in Illinois, whenever I see them at track meets, I get, all right, Jabri, we watching. keep doing your job, man. Hey, thank you. We know you can coach. You're gonna show them all eventually. So that feel of I think sometimes they may not get their respect of how great of people and coaches they are as well. And some of the young coaches, like a young man, Antonio Wells, how they just come ask me for knowledge or just converse with me. And like I said, the known unknowns, the coaches of the MEAC, and particularly Antonio Wells and a lot of the people who just empower me. They don't know they're empowering me, but they're giving me that affirmation and confirmation that it makes me feel proud that I think I'm representing something. And it just makes me feel good. So I just want to give them their flowers and their roses, the coaches of the MEAC. And like I said, Antonio, we converse a bit. So, yeah.
All right, in closing, the flowers I want to give, I want to piggyback same thing with Jabri, is the coaches in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, the SWAC. It's some phenomenal coaches in there. Coach Angela Williams at Prairie View, Chris McCoy has done a phenomenal job. And this is a kid that's coming up down at Alcorn. He's getting ready to do some great things down there. And just all the coaches across our conference.
That's Jimmy, right?
Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah.
Jim is coming up. And then you got legendary coaches throughout the conference who set the pace for all of us, a lot of us today, your Hoover Rice, your Johnny Thomas, and then your Ed Temple, your Cheeseburgers, and these types of coaches. And then, and my spirit been led to a coach that's an Alabama State alum. You had some tough shoes to fill coming in after him. And because when he moved on to Clemson, that's Lennox Graham. That is one of the most humble, one of the best coaches out there. That's one of the known unknown. And that is a humble, God-fearing man. And he's an Alabama State alum. So again, when I say, if you want to be at that door, knock. And it shall open, but you got to keep knocking.
Yeah.
You're never going to get in if you don't walk to the door. You might have to walk 10 miles. You might have to walk 60 miles. But when you get to that door, you knock. You keep knocking until you have to get in. But all my coaches in the SWAC, man, much love, much respect, much love. All of you guys, much love. And let's keep this thing going.
Likewise. So, man, just to close it out, we appreciate you, gentlemen, this afternoon. Y'all have dropped some gems. I know I learned so much. I hope the people, when they see this, they pick up some things as well. Just like you said, man, we got to keep these things going. We have to look at it from an unbiased lens, take the color out of it across all situations, removing the PWI, the HBCUs, all of the above. But this has been Track Chat with the most known unknowns, the HBCU and PWI conversation as it continued. I'm Coach Kyle Stevenson. We got Coach Richie Bean, Coach Jabri Harris, Coach Lamont Johnson, and the Hassan Stamps, man. Y'all have a great weekend. Y'all stay safe.